Hi there. I'm Kyle Woody, founder and executive director of Jack's Caregiver Coalition, where our mission is to improve the way that guys think, feel, and act through every phase of their caregiving journey. Welcome to our Shine the Light campaign, and thank you for helping us shine a light today on Mr. Dustin Cesarek. Dustin has worked quietly and tirelessly, not only in his role as caregiver for his mom and for his lovely bride, Kim, but as a founder of our organization. As a founder, Dustin laid the foundation that gave us the opportunity to become the organization that we are today. And I know I speak for everyone who Dustin has helped along on their caregiving journey that we are all honored and humbled that he's allowed us to pull up alongside him on his caregiving journey. And we are excited to share his story with you today. Our goal with this campaign is to make 10 more stories like Dustin's a reality. $7,500 would do that, and with your help today, I know we can hit that goal. In closing, I want to express our gratitude for our entire campaign team. Mr. Rich Anderson, our host, Mr. Chris Cloutier, our virtual producer, and of course today's honoree, Mr. Dustin Cesarek. These guys have all come together to make today's broadcast a reality. And as volunteers, they're all making sure that 100% of your support today goes directly to our mission. And now, here's our host, Mr. Richard Anderson.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Hopefully you saw the first Shine the Light episode just a week ago with Mr. Fred. And we're back with the second one. My name is Rich Anderson. I'm going to be your host again today. And I want to thank Kyle Woody, our executive director, for those words of wisdom as we lead into episode number 2. Just as a reminder, Shine the Light is a fundraising campaign and an opportunity for us to highlight the members who are taking care of others who are going through some catastrophic illness, oftentimes cancer. We call those folks Jacks. And I am very honored to have interviewed many of those Jacks over the years. Last year, we interviewed 12 of them, and so far we're on number 2 for 2021, with a third coming soon. And it's an incredible honor for me today. I'll get to introduce you to Dustin, one of my favorite Jacks, and one of the guys who helped make it all happen. Before we get to that, though, reminder, it is a fundraiser, and taking care of somebody else is a very arduous task. Taking care of the caregivers is equally as arduous, and that's the mission that we at Jacks share. And so if you have an opportunity to either sponsor someone you know in the Jacks Caregiver Coalition or to help fund their membership, we'd love for you to be able to donate and shine your light on them. And so you'll see on the screen there is a URL. If you could click on that when you get a chance and share some of your loving donations with us, that would be awesome. I will share that link again later in the episode, and let us now get to the show. So I'm going to bring in here now Dustin Cesarek. I might say his name wrong. We'll make sure that he gets it right. I just call him Dustin. Dustin was one of the members who helped form Jacks back in 2014, back when it was a 3-person idea and not a whole lot of funds and not a whole lot of curriculum. And boy, has it changed. So Dustin, come on in from the waiting room. How are you doing, bud? How did I do in your last name? Do I need some training there?
Yeah, I mean, it's Cesarek. I generally respond to anything close because I think I've met like 3 people in my life who've gotten it right on the first try.
Yeah, well, I'm not one of them, but thank you for the patience.
No.
It's truly an honor, and I'm not just saying that because we're being recorded. It's when you meet the people who made it all happen, whatever that is, if you're into Apple and you got to meet Stephen Jobs, or if you love Dell and you got to meet Michael Dell, you might not be quite on that bar, but it's pretty darn close.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Well, Jacks changed my life, and as I've interviewed the Jacks over the years here, I can tell you that it has an incredible impact on the people that we serve, and it's very humbling for me to be part of this program. But then to meet you, I'd love to hear a little bit about that. We could probably talk for hours, and clearly I want to make sure we shine some light on you. But can you just take me back to 2014 and tell me what was that like? The Jacks Brain Trust sitting in a room trying to figure out how we can do something for somebody. Like share a memory with me from back then.
Oh, so many memories. And I think anybody who's ever started anything, I imagine you probably have some experience as a business owner yourself when you're coming up with an idea with a group of people. It's not always just like seamless.
Yeah.
Personalities don't just like mesh perfectly on day one. But one of my earliest like first memories of Jack's was one of our very first meetings when Kyle put out on the internet, hey, looking for caregivers, dads, husbands, whatever he called it. I don't even remember anymore. Let's get together for coffee, just hang out. And at the time, my wife, Kim, had just started going to a support group, and I was kind of left, a little jealous because she was like making friends in this cancer world. And I was like, I need to get out of here. We have like a 2-year-old at home. I don't want to just sit at home all the time with my kid while Kim's out having fun. So I go and I have coffee with these guys, and it was, Kyle was himself. He did a very good job of like, kind of word vomiting his vision, like, like let's do something. Like we need to do something. Let's just hang out and talk. And I don't remember a lot of the substance of those first conversations, but I remember the feeling afterwards of coming home and being like, wow, like I just talked to somebody honestly for like the first time, and it had been like almost, I think, 2 years since Kim's diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so it was like this opportunity to actually, be honest with myself in a room with other people about what I was going through.
Yeah.
And to be honest, one of the most vivid memories that I have is not long after Justin, one of the other co-founder, he lost his wife, I think within like 6 months of us first starting to meet.
Yeah.
And so seeing that like right in front of me, it was impactful.
Yeah.
And I was like, one day I will probably be in that guy's shoes. So I want to stick near this guy and see how he's dealing with that, so I can prepare myself, for one day where my journey gets to.
Well, and I definitely want to get to some of that. And boy, I mean, Justin's another guy I haven't had the chance to interview yet, but I've obviously spent some time with him. And you're right. He had a heck of a journey and had to go through some things that maybe someday we're going to have to go through. And having people like that around is helpful to see how to handle all that. But let me change here a little bit. And before we get into any kind of cancer conversations, try to describe your life right now, but you can't use the word cancer or treatment or hospital. Pretend like Kim is not going through cancer and I was a stranger that you really, you don't want to get into that with certain people.
Sure.
But give me the elevator version of your family situation, what you do and what you've been doing in your family and things like that. And then we'll introduce the cancer ingredient in a second. Right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I am a dad. She's 9. She'll be 10 in I guess I still have like 6 months. So she's 9 now. 3rd grade. She's bosses me around more than I should let her, but I'm wrapped around her pinky finger. So that's how that works. I'm a lawyer. I just went to law school. I just graduated last year. Super exciting stuff. I decided that I wanted to spend some quality time with my family and not dive headfirst and then some into the law. So I'm trying my hand at a solo practice in estate planning, seeing where that takes me. And I'm really looking forward to the summer because we try our hardest to go to the beach. And by the beach, I mean like the ocean, at least like once a year. It hasn't been happening the last few years with school and stuff going on. But last year, right before Reagan started 3rd grade, we were able to get out to North Carolina, where we lived for about 8 years. And it's just beautiful. I think anybody who has like a love for being outside and can find the opportunity to like get to that space, like I'm just all about it.
Yeah. And boy, obviously when we introduce the cancer ingredient to this conversation, people might pause for a second and ask, how does one get a law degree while being a full-time caregiver and raising a young child? So I can't even imagine how you managed to fit in that amount of study and paperwork and classes. And I mean, that's a hard thing to do with the perfect situation, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't graduate at the top of my class. I'll be honest about that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Going into it, I was very honest with myself. I said, I need to set realistic expectations. I'm not 22. I can't go sit in the library for 10 hours a day. I was fortunate that Kim had a pretty solid 3 years. We definitely had some speed bumps along the way, especially towards the end. But, she, for the most part, picked up a lot of work around the house with Reagan. We had some amazing friends and members in our community that helped with carpools when needed, or, just hanging out with Reagan or Kim when needed. Yeah. But there was plenty of nights where they were going to bed at 8 o'clock and I was pouring my first cup of coffee, about to go sit in my office for another 4 hours. Yeah. So it wasn't easy, but I half jokingly tell people that when we decided that I would go back to school to try to help set our family up for the future, I made Kim promise that she was not going to die for at least 3 years.
Yeah, seems like a fair trade, I think.
But that was like a conversation that we had. I was like, if this happens, like, you can't die while I'm in school, because it's just like mess everything up.
Right.
And she was like, okay, well, I'll try. I mean, I'm not gonna make any promises.
That's an awkward conversation for someone who's not in our shoes, right? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of scoring. And one of the things that I've heard over and over and over is Jacks go to these events, they interact with other Jacks, and they get it. Like, you can actually have that conversation with me, and I get the humor in it, right?
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me rewind. There's so much there that I need to unpack, including some of the folks who are helping you and doing all that. But before I get to that, give me the 1 minute, 2 minute kind of overview. The reality is you are a caregiver of someone going through cancer. This video is not about Kim, but the reality is she is a large part of your life. And so if we don't understand kind of where she's been and what she's in the middle of right now, we really don't get to understand Dustin. So tell us a little bit about her journey. Don't want to go into a ton of detail, but I think we need to know a little bit about her.
Sure. Yeah. So Kim was diagnosed in July of 2012. We had an 8-month-old child at the time. We had actually, about 2 months before her diagnosis, we had started having a conversation about when we would have our second. And so that was in itself, like, the diagnosis just took all of our hopes and dreams and plans and said, out the window, time to go a different route.
Yep.
But so she was diagnosed metastatic, stage 4. So her cancer had already spread when she was diagnosed. They found it in her sternum, in her breast, which is breast cancer, in her liver, her lungs, a couple spots on her spine.
Wow.
So that was kind of some, whiplash experience right there.
Yeah.
And then, we've just been plugging away, and in the fall of 2019, it spread to her brain. And that was while I was in my 3rd year of school. So that was kind of a new beast, because it just gets a lot scarier. There's a lot fewer options for treatment, and the options that are treatment tend to have scarier side effects. But that was a 1.5 years ago, and she's still plugging away.
Yeah.
She was a pharmacist by training prior to getting out of work because of her cancer. So she's always been very intelligent, strong-willed, stubborn, maybe, wink, wink, but also very independent. And I think that has kind of continued throughout our journey. She's always been very independent, and losing work was really rough on her. So that has, I think, kind of had a bigger piece than I've anticipated in how we kind of manage our relationship, our caregiver relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, now she just loves being a stay-at-home mom. She's like, I would never go back to work, even if I could or wanted to.
Well, and boy, at 9 years old, Reagan's, I'm sure she's a handful, but she's also probably super fun. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, in my opinion, her mom definitely, they have similar personalities in the way that they rub each other wrong often.
Yeah.
But they love each other dearly, and Reagan is the sweetest kid, like random acts of kindness and just like out of the blue hugs and I love yous. And I think Reagan has been like a rock for both of us to a certain degree, just with how she carries herself.
Yeah, my daughter will be graduating from high school this year and going off to college, and I can tell you it's a little bit terrifying because, to your point, I mean, she's been that rock a little bit for both of us. I think she's a huge motivation for my wife, but she's also that person I can sit down and talk to, and becoming a young adult. And I know Reagan's not a young adult yet, but isn't it amazing how mature they can be when you actually like sit down and talk to them?
Oh yeah. No, definitely. I mean, one thing I've been trying to do for the last maybe 6 months. Kim had a kind of a rough go last fall, and then my mom passed away in January, and so just over these last 6 months, we just had a lot kind of extra stuff on our plate. So at night before bed, I go in and I check in on Reagan and I ask her if there's anything she wants to talk about, to kind of like leave it open-ended and see if she has anything on her mind or whatever. And half the time it's like, can we get donuts tomorrow? Or I want to play video games with my friend or something. But sometimes she's just like, I'm worried about mom, or I'm worried about grandma. And like, we'll sit there and have a little bit of a talk. And she's a lot more mature than I was at that age. That she probably has a bit of life experience, on me at that point.
Yeah, no, I know that my daughter is farther along and more mature than I am. And part of that's just amazing and awesome. And part of it's kind of sad because you kind of wish she could just be a kid and carefree and, go ride her bike and skin up her knee and, get yelled at and do whatever. And, the reality is everything that we face shapes who we are. And, you do with it as you can, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So right now, is Kim fairly self-sufficient? Are you still a fairly full-time caregiver? Do you have other people helping you today? Like, what stage is she in now, and what level of caregiving is being given?
Kim is fairly independent on the day-to-day. When she's home, she kind of like uses up her energy and then just kind of like sleeps on the couch for 3 days. And then she's like, I'm good again. Let me go paint a wall or go run a bunch of errands. And then I'm going to sleep for 2 more days.
Yeah.
So she's definitely got like roller coasters in her energy levels. But for the most part, she gets herself to her appointments. She can drive okay. Wow. She finally, like, I don't know, swallowed her pride and got a handicap like parking sticker. I'm like, you don't need to be walking across the parking lot. Like, you have cancer, you can get that thing.
That's energy you could use somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think she's partly propelled by her personality to a certain degree. She's very much like, I can do this, I'm going to do this. And then she just runs out and she's got to lay down. So around the house, I mean, I cook most dinners. She definitely pulls her weight in the kitchen more than she probably wants to, and maybe even I want to, because I'm definitely the cook in the family.
Yeah.
But she gets around okay. So I see kind of my role more as kind of like support. Yeah. When she needs it, I need to be there. I need to be available and accessible. I think I take a lot of the Reagan energy. When Reagan gets home from school and she's like, I want to play, I want to run around, I want to do stuff, I'm just kind of like, all right, direct your energy towards me. Let's go. Like, your mom needs to sit.
Yeah.
Once you calm down, we'll come and hang out with mom and relax and play board games or something. But Kim also recognizes that, I'm just starting a new business. Like I just went to school, I'm trying to do stuff that's good and valuable for our family. So I know that there's times where she also maybe doesn't have it 100%, but will pull herself off the couch for my sake.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So I don't know. I think I don't treat Kim like she's fragile.
Yep.
She commits to doing things around the house. And so I say, all right, well then do them. If you can't, then tell me and I'll do it. But if you're going to do it, then do it. Good for you. Like, I don't want you to just be a vegetable. Like, get up and do stuff.
Well, yeah. And having a purpose, I think, helps a great deal.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit in just a second here about some of the things that you've done as a Jack. And you and I think, might have initially met at a cooking event. And I know you've gone to some other ones as well and interacted with some other Jacks, and maybe reflecting a little bit on how those events and those interactions might have helped you. And before you do that, just to remind everybody, we are trying to raise money for the Jack's Caregiver Coalition. This is our Shine the Light campaign, and we're shining the light today on Dustin, Kim, Reagan, and all of the Jacks here in the Jack's Caregiver Coalition. And that takes time and money. Some of the events that we do might be the only event that Jack gets to go to over the course of a week or a month that don't have to do with caregiving. As I've spoken to many of the caregivers, they spend their time going shopping or going to appointments or sitting in a waiting room, or in COVID world, literally sitting in the car waiting for their spouse to be delivered back to the front door. And so we try to provide opportunities, whether that be a Fire Pit Friday or a Thirsty Thursday or a Top Golf event, go-karting, axe throwing, extreme sandboxing, or even a cooking event with someone like Dustin. So if you see the URL on the screen there, please donate and help make this possible. We're trying to enable a Jack's journey for at least 10 more Jacks here in this first campaign. So Dustin, with that intro, was it the cooking event that we first met at? I can't remember. We were at Gilda's, and I remember you were teaching something, but I don't know if that was the first one or not.
Yeah, I remember getting coffee with you once. I don't know if that was before or after. It was very early on.
Yeah.
The cooking event might have been the first event that we went to together. Because Gilda's Club just had this gorgeous kitchen.
Oh.
I have to spend time here.
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, amazing facility, amazing kitchen, and thank you for volunteering. I was surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be, because I think I'm like you, Dustin. I do most of the cooking. Even pre-cancer, I was the cook in the family.
Yeah. Was
that the same for you?
Oh yeah. When I met Kim, she basically lived off peanut butter and saltine crackers.
Right. Yeah, my wife's fancy meal is a cheese quesadilla with Corona. But nice. I think that we're an anomaly for caregivers, Dustin, because when we were at that event at Gilda's, I remember one of the menus that you did, I think, was enchiladas, and most of what you had prepared was prepared stuff in a jar or in a can or whatever, to make it as simple as possible. I mean, this wasn't really a homemade meal as much as it was a puzzle, just putting 5 pieces together, throwing it in the oven, throwing some cheese on it, and calling it a meal, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that to be the case as you were involved with Jack's? Is that one of the reasons why we did a cooking event way back then, was to help these caregivers learn how to work in a kitchen?
I think that was definitely a piece of it. I think that the idea of what's your new role as a caregiver. Wow. There are plenty of guys who don't cook, for whatever reason, or they cook, but they just, it's always, they shared responsibility. And then because of the nature of, their caregiver's diagnosis, all of a sudden they have more burden on them, and they're like, well, I only know how to make 3 things. I can't make that every week.
Right.
So I think part of the idea was we need to try to find ways to get these guys some life skills that maybe can help enhance the work that they're doing at home or for their family. And then the other part was, just the idea of being able to break bread together, and having, so many good things happen over a meal in so many different situations.
Yeah.
So just creating that space to like sit down and say like, yeah, like pass me the mashed potatoes. We're now friends because I trust you because you didn't poison my mashed potatoes when you passed them to me.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that, you know, it was a complex situation for such a simple event. But I think that that's early on, that was one of the big drivers for the types of events we were putting on was, you know, let's just create a space where we can get guys in the room together, you know, low effort on their part, you know, maybe walk away with some added value that they didn't know about prior to, and hopefully some relationships too.
Well, and I don't know who actually started this analogy, but Kyle takes credit for it. But maybe it was you or Justin. He told me early on that women tend to connect with other women face to face, where they'll sit across the table and they'll have this conversation, and very quickly they will earn trust and share their inner dark secrets and become vulnerable. But guys don't typically do that. And what he tells me is that guys are more shoulder to shoulder. You know, they need to be walking or doing something together. And then that trust is earned. And then that vulnerability is shared. I can tell you, having gone to, I don't know, at least three or four of those cooking events, I had some very meaningful conversations with folks that I probably wouldn't have had if I was just sitting around having coffee. So first of all, thank you for being part of that. But second, do you find that as well, that the doing is what makes guys open up a little bit?
Yeah, you know, I don't want to take credit because I honestly don't know who came up with the idea first. I will say that I was having a conversation with someone at another, I don't even remember who it was now off the top of my head, but I was having this conversation and I was describing the programming that we were trying to put together. You know, I was describing the fishing, the guided fishing events. You know, we put a bunch of guys on a boat and they're just sitting there, they cast out into the water and then they're talking, you know, to each other on the boat, and the stuff that comes out of those conversations. And I remember her being like, oh, you know, there's like a word for that in child psychology where two kids play in the play box in like a sandbox together. And it's like they're digging separate holes and you don't realize it, but they're actually like playing together, even though they're not like actually like talking like face to face, just as you said. And I was like, oh, so this thing that we're doing for guys, it's like a child psychology thing.
No wonder it works.
Yeah. But I loved it. I was like, it totally makes sense to me. Like it works for me. I don't know if whatever. But yeah, to your point, I think that it helps. You know, I think the doing it distracts from like the discomfort of the situation, especially when you're not used to being openly, you know, about your emotions and feelings and fears. You know, it provides a space where you can just kind of sit there and you're doing whatever, you're fishing or you're eating or you're, you know, hitting golf balls. And you're not even necessarily talking at first, but you're hearing and you're like, hey, I can relate to that. Maybe I'll like, you know, give my 2 cents and see what people think. And it's kind of like you test the waters first to a certain degree. And the next thing you know, you have like best friends and you're crying on their shoulders and, you know, you're like carpooling to funerals and stuff. It's totally weird.
It is weird, but how, you know, who else in your life can relate to what you're going through? I mean, truly, many of our family and our friends say, oh, I get it, man. I feel for you. I appreciate your support, but you don't get it. Like it's unless you're in it, you don't. So let's take this moment for a second, just shine the light on some of the folks that you've come across. Obviously, Kyle and Justin were part of that journey. Our next interview is with Travis, and I know he was part of the journey for you as well. Andreas has been there. Some of the folks that I've interviewed over the last year and a half were people that interacted with you. Who are some of those folks that were impactful to you and maybe took a moment to be vulnerable with you? And you don't have to share the vulnerabilities, but just maybe shine some light on them and tell us what you were doing or where you were when you interacted with this, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we first started the kind of like the Jack to Jack, and we started kind of divvying out, you know, it was me Justin and Kyle, and we were like, all right, well, these guys want to like get involved. Well, we need to like connect them with somebody, you know, and it's like, well, we're not therapists, but we're going through the same sort of situation. So I guess like I'll do it, you know?
Right.
And so one of the first guys that I was connected with was Michael, and meeting up with him for drinks, it was interesting being on like the receiving end of the journey,
Mhm.
you know, for the first time, where it was like this guy is like trusting me and he doesn't know me, but
Right.
he's like telling me all sorts of stuff about his personal life and his fears and what he's worried about.
Yeah.
It was kind of an amazing feeling walking away from it. You know, I
Mhm.
thought I was going to be drained just like because of the emotional weight of both of us, you know, being caregivers, but walking away from it being like, wow, like this guy trusted me.
Mhm.
And, you know, it was a really good conversation and I got a lot of energy out of it. It kind of filled me up to a certain degree. So then I was like, well, like, let's do some more of this. Like, I want to go out in the community and meet people. And so I did, you know, and, you know, and the other guys like Dan, I met with Dan initially. And I remember, you know, we had breakfast or brunch or something, I don't know. And, you know, I left thinking like, you know, that was a pretty good conversation. And he sent me like an email not long after and was like, thank you so much. Like, you don't have no idea like how much help that was.
Right.
And I was like, really? Like, you know, like, well, I'm flattered,
Right.
but I don't really know if I did that much. I think it was almost like being just like a sounding board, you know. I think that was probably more where my value it was, you know, with those first meetings. But, you know, then you have guys like Travis who, you know, jumped in and got involved with the organization and, you know, came up like me and Kyle and Justin, we didn't know what we were doing. We're like, well, let's go golf and let's fish because that's what guys do, right?
Right.
And then Travis comes in and he's like, let's cut ice with chainsaws and throw axes and
Right.
like he had all these good ideas. And I was like, well, that's awesome, Travis. Thank you so much for making this organization worth anything.
Right. Well, and you know, this whole conversation, I like talking about this a little bit for those people that don't know about Jax, because from the outside, it looks like a social club where guys just created a nonprofit so they can go goof off together. And it's not that. It's like you said, you know, while you're sitting out there fishing or while you're chainsawing an ice block, which I did, you have some very meaningful conversations in the white space between, right? So between your golf shots or between your casts and your fishing line, you might say something that you hadn't told anybody else, some vulnerability, some fear, some question that nobody else really knows how to answer. And that's what these events are about. That's why we're raising money. And that's the difference we're trying to make. So Dustin, let me ask you a little bit about, you know, present day or over the last year or two. Obviously those folks were people you've met through the Jax organization, but let's look outside of Jax.
Mm-hmm.
Who has helped? And I say who's helped you, but the reality is they might have helped Kim directly or they might have helped Reagan directly. But when I talk to some other Jax, you know, they don't have family or friends here. They might have moved recently and it's really just them, right? They literally have to do everything. So anybody who's helping you with anything, whether that's shoveling your driveway, running Reagan to dance, or whatever it is, that's helping, right? That's something you'd have to do. Who are some of those folks that you'd really like to shine a light on and say thank you to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first I'll start by saying, you know, my kind of outlook on the help situation is, you know, I think about, especially as a family, when you have a kid, it's like you and your spouse is, you know, I think of it as like a pie chart and there's like 100% capacity and it's all full, like all the time. Like there's always stuff to do.
Always.
And then when one of them like gets cancer or some other like chronic debilitating disease, like a big piece of that pie chart just gets like cut out, like no more time for that.
Yep.
But like you still have all the stuff to do, but you now don't have the capacity to do it.
Yep.
So, you know, I think for a long time, I just let it all slide and things piled up and it added stress to my life. And I mean, it still does, like it still happens. I'm not perfect. But, you know, I also have the outlook that if you if you put love into the world, like you'll get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we've received so much from the people in our community and in our lives. People, you know, we didn't expect. I think Reagan's the parents of other kids in Reagan's class, like that group has been amazing. The other moms and dads. There was last fall, Kim was having she had some tumors that were affecting her breathing, and she was like, her energy level was minimal. And I was just took the bar exam. I was trying to kind of get stuff going. And Kim posted something on Facebook, just like kind of like, I need to rant, you know, whatever. And within 24 hours, there was a carpool schedule, and there was pickups and drop-offs, because Reagan was still doing in-person school at the time.
Yeah.
But we had pickups and drop-offs every day for like 8 weeks. And I was like, off my plate, like, thank you so much. Like, I cannot. And then at one point, again, we were doing something around the house and our vacuum broke, and we had a backup vacuum. Well, that vacuum wasn't working either for whatever reason. So Kim, again, she's like, I just got to be angry on social media, because that's what it's for, apparently, nowadays.
Yeah.
And within that evening, doorbell rings, and it was like, you know, no one's there, but there's a box. It's a vacuum. Someone went and bought a vacuum and dropped it off on our doorstep. And it was other parents at the school, you know? And so it's just like stuff like that. And, you know, the random texts and messages, you know, they obviously, they don't happen as often as maybe you'd like or you need, but any little bit helps, you know? And I know that I personally have, I'm not great at like engaging my relationships. So I don't like just randomly text my friends, you know, as often as I should, saying, hey, how are you doing? What's up? Like, what are you up to? But so I've been trying to do more effort into that. But the people who have like engaged me, like, have become so much more important to me.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to reciprocate as often as I can, because I know that those are the relationships that matter, the people that keep coming back, even though like I have nothing but crap to throw at them, you know? But yeah, there's, you know, it's been amazing to see how like genuinely good humans can be. And as crappy as this journey's been, like, that's one thing that I've learned, is that there are good people in the world. There are good strangers in the world, even, you know?
There are. Well, Dustin, as I said, I think you and I could probably talk for about 3 hours and still not even touch the surface of all the topics that we'd love to talk about. Cooking being one of them. I would love to get that spun back up. And I met a Jack recently who's a equally adept cook. And boy, Dustin and I used to do that over at Gilda. So maybe we have an event waiting to happen. But that aside, I do want to thank everybody for watching today. Encourage everybody to donate if you can, to support a Jack, someone like Dustin, or other Jacks that haven't even heard about us. If you know somebody who is a caregiver for somebody going through a catastrophic illness or cancer, please tell them about Jacks. Let us shine the light on them. Let us introduce them to other people that get it, and help support our cause. Dustin, in closing, what would you say to somebody who knew a Jack to be, who knew somebody, a male, who was a caregiver, and maybe they were new to the caregiving world, they were overwhelmed with it, their pie, like you said, it just exploded, a bunch of stuff was falling off, and this person wants to help. What do you tell them so that they can pass on the message about Jacks?
I mean, I would say, you know, there's a group out there that wants to help. They want to be a support. And they're not there to tell you what to feel or what to do, but they're there to create opportunity for you to take care of yourself, to be a better caregiver, to be a better parent, spouse, child, and just to create opportunity for you to meet other people who are walking in your shoes, and maybe have a little bit of wisdom that they can share.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's part of our challenge, isn't it? Is getting the word out. There's so many people, unfortunately, going through cancer, which means about half of them are women, and the caregivers for those ladies are men. That means that half of the people, half of the caregivers out in the world could use a group like Jack's, and many of them don't know about us. So thank you for spending the time with us today. My best to you, to Kim, to Reagan, to your entire village of people that are helping you get through the cancer journey. Coming on to 9 years, if my math was right.
Yep.
Yeah, we're coming on to 6 ourselves. So we are blessed to have so many years. I've heard shorter stories, and blessed that we're able to live 6, 7, 8, 9, hopefully many more years, even with cancer. So thank you for your time today, Justin, and God bless for you and your family.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rich. I appreciate it.
Thank you.